New Westminster War Veterans Oral History Project. Today's date is November 29th, 2001. The interviewee is Mr. Douglas Morgan, who is with the Westminster Regiment. Mr. Morgan, can you tell me your full name?
Douglas Campbell Morgan.
And your date and place of birth?
10th of October 1915 at Kirkson, Barry, Wales.
And what is your marital status?
I'm married.
And your wife's name and maiden name?
It's Mary Eileen, and her maiden name was Bryant.
Do you have any children?
2.
And their names and ages?
Terry Morgan. He was born in June 1946. And the other one is Trevor. He was born on October 1947.
So tell me about your parents. They were from Wales, I imagine. How did they...
My mother is from Gloucester in England.
Okay.
And my father is from Wales.
So how did they get from Wales to here?
Well, they came to Canada, but both of them individually as immigrants.
Okay.
Along in the early 1900s. I can't tell you too much. I don't know too much about that.
Right. And did they come straight to the West Coast?
No, they were both in Saskatchewan.
Oh, okay. Okay. So have you always been a resident of this area?
Well, I was born in Wales, as I said, and we came back to Canada at the end of World War I in 1919, November.
Oh, okay. Can you tell me your current address?
4314 196th Street, Langley, BC.
And what about other places of residences?
We lived, when we first came back after the war, I got a piece of property on Durrough Road, which is now under the Guildford Estate.
Okay.
And then we moved into New Westminster, and then from Westminster we moved out here.
Oh, okay. So what branch of the armed forces were you enrolled in?
Well, I joined the Westminster Regiment just as an infantryman or just a soldier. Eh?
Right. And then, so you joined as a private, and then...
That's right.
You moved on to...
Well, it's a long story in between. Yeah. How much do you want to know about it?
Well, tell me how you moved from being a private to how you ended up. Just the progress of ranks. And
well, the interesting part of it is when I first joined the regiment in September the 6th, 1939, they put me on orders as T. Morgan. So I didn't know who T. Morgan was, so I just sat around the drill hall waiting to find out when I was going to be assigned to a company, and until Basil Morgan come along and he said to me, who are you? And I told him, and he said, well, you have appeared on orders for a certain company. And I said, no, I haven't, because my name is DC and not T.
Right.
So anyway, soon they got me sorted out then, and then they got my name sorted out, and of course I had a regimental number, K47102, and then of course we were a machine gun battalion at that time.
Right.
And anything mechanical to me was easy, and we had to learn to take the locks on the machine gun apart and with our eyes closed, and it didn't take me very long to do that, and next thing I knew I found myself working in the kitchen.
Really?
Oh yeah. And I was working in there for a while, and I remember the Major Manning was our lieutenant at that time, and he was my platoon officer, and he was on orderly officer, and he said to me, do you like working in the kitchen? And I said, no, sir. And he said, well, how long you been in here? I've been in working about a month by then, I guess, or quite a while anyhow. So he said, okay, well, you can go back to the company, and about a week, and I was back in the kitchen again. So then I got so that I got to be a steward in a sergeant's mess for a while. And apparently, I guess one day I give one of the corporals, sergeant he was, so some beer after hours, and well, nobody could do anything to me because he was a senior. I wasn't in the sergeant's mess anymore.
Oh, really, eh?
So, then shortly after that, you want to know any more?
Well, I know you were a mechanic, so I'd like to find out how you became one.
Well, shortly after that, we were sent to Dundurn, Saskatchewan, at least the regiment did. And while I was there, I managed to get a short course and get a pass as a mechanic, a motor mechanic, they call this.
Okay. And
from there, we came back into New Westminster to the old Vancouver Hotel in the fall of 1940, and from there on, I worked on maintaining machinery, and then in 1941, we went to camp. What was the name in eastern Canada? I forget the name of the moon.
Borden?
Camp Borden.
Yeah.
And from Camp Borden, I was sent to Ford Motor Plant for a course on Bren gun carriers. And I was still a motor mechanic, and I kept that position, and then I was retested later on because we could have Class A mechanics then, and so I passed the Class A mechanics test and remained that way until we went over to England on the advance party in 1941. And when I got there, of course, we had to be retested, and I was reclassified as a mechanic, a grade A, or group A. And see, from there, I was working on machinery all the time, maintenance and so on. And I remained as a private until we had gone to Italy. And when we got to Italy, the chap that I was working with, who was a sergeant by this time, he got called to Octu, and it was about a day or two before we went into the Melfa, and I was given the job of sergeant, and to work with the tech officer, and he looking after equipment.
So you ended up as a sergeant then?
Yeah.
So tell me, when did you enroll in the armed forces?
I enrolled on the 6th of September, 1939.
And what did your family feel of that?
Well, they didn't have anything to say about it, because I was single. Father, he didn't think very much of it, but by this time we hardly ever saw each other anyway.
Oh, you're living on your own?
No, I had been for years.
Right.
And my mother, of course, she didn't think much of it either, but what do you do? I was about 20, almost 24 years old now.
So did you enroll with friends or on your own?
On my own.
Yeah. And why?
Well, I had been listening to this stuff coming over the radio about Hitler's movement and what was happening. And then, following it up, when I found that he had invaded Poland and something, I thought, well, maybe I should get into this thing and see if I can help.
So, when were you discharged from duty?
October the 5th of 1945. 5th or 6th, I think it was the 5th.
Right, and was that here?
No, I took a discharge in England.
Oh, you did, eh? So, when you discovered that Canada declared war on Germany, what did you feel?
Well, I figured it's about time that we stopped this guy.
You did, eh?
Yeah.
How long did you take your training? You took a bunch of different training, right? Here and in England.
Well, the basic training, because they kept changing it. First we were a machine gun outfit, and then they were going to make us into I think, if I remember right, they were going to make us into infantry, and then they decided to make us in a motorized regiment.
Right.
But I could have, I could be a little bit wrong here, but I thought there was one time in there that we were going to be infantry. I'm not sure.
Tell me, what was it? Take me through an average day of training camp.
Training?
Yeah.
Well, when we first started out, we started out in New Westminster because there was no barracks or nothing. The country had no facilities for. All they had was the armories in New Westminster. And they had no barracks or anything.
Right.
And we would live at home or wherever we were, and those who didn't have a home were staying in hotels or motels.
Oh, yeah.
And we would report at about, I think about 8 o'clock in the morning, if I remember right. And then we'd do marching drills and rifle drilling and what have you. And we actually, it was discipline, and then we were given machine gun training and the normal types of training that go with it this time. I forget what they were now, it's too long ago.
It was a while ago, eh? Do you remember much about your trip across the Atlantic?
Yeah, we went across on a boat.
Yeah.
And I was quite well. I didn't get seasick. It was I got a couple of woozy a couple of times, but I didn't fare too bad. A lot of them did get sick though, seasick. And the one thing I really remember about this trip across England, they were feeding us on mutton.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure the mutton must have been in storage for a long, long time, but I never liked it. I didn't eat very well on the boat then.
Right. Did you eat mutton when you got to England too?
Well, I wouldn't eat mutton at all. If they had mutton, I just didn't eat.
Oh, really? Eh? Yeah. So when you arrived in England, where was your main station?
Well, when we arrived in Britain, at Liverpool, and they brought us across Canada on 2 trains. They loaded us onto one, and one of these little guys, and they had a little beep beep, and they went like mad, and they took us down to Camp Borden in England.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure it was Camp Borden we went to first, and then they took us to the Talavera Barracks in Aldershot.
Oh, okay.
Right. I think I'm correct here.
Right. And is that when you began active service? Was it in England, or was it when
Well, they called it active service all the time. But when we got to England, it wasn't very long since it was still being bombed, but not the way they had been. Eh?
Right.
And, of course, none of us had any experience with this stuff, at least nobody with me did. And, of course, we'd been reading the newspaper. We really didn't know what to expect. And of course, it was all blackout.
Right.
And you had to learn to move about in the darkness, and if you were driving a vehicle, you had one little weeny light, you know, just enough that somebody could see that you were coming.
And you would have been driving vehicles all the time, right?
Oh, yeah. Pretty carefully, and you didn't run into anything. Or never run over anybody. It was pretty dicey.
Right. So where were you stationed in Europe?
In Europe?
Yeah.
After in England, we were at the Televery barracks, and we were kept us in England for quite a while, you know.
Oh, they did, eh?
Oh, yeah. We were in, let's see, where did we go all together? We were in the Televery barracks, and then they moved us outside of Aldershot a few miles to a place called Farnham, and they had little estates there, you know, the people had, and there would be a company or something like that on one of these estates, eh?
Oh, I see.
And the regiment was pretty badly split up for that. And then they took us to Tunbridge Wells, and then they took us to, let's see, we went to Hove and Brighton, and Pittenford Park. Then we went back to Brighton and Hove again, and then we were at Winchester for a while. And then we embarked from near there to North Africa. You know, because they took us to and dumped us off in North Africa, and then they brought us back to a place called Afragola.
Oh.
Just out of sight of Naples. And we were there, and we went into action from there.
Oh, I see.
At least the regiment did, and my job was still maintaining equipment, and we had got a bunch of equipment from that had been on the Western Desert.
Oh,
and,
full of sand.
Full of sand, and boy, did we ever have some fun with that stuff. We got one batch all nicely cleaned up, and the fellows all worked on it, got all nicely cleaned up, all the sand, and then he comes up with the whole works of all the equipment away from us because somebody else needed it.
Okay.
So then we give us another batch of this stuff. But
what equipment were you working on?
Oh, we had Ford trucks, GM trucks. We had Austin Portees. We had all kinds of funny stuff.
Yeah.
And we never really got much American equipment until later on. It was mostly this kind of stuff, until the Americans really got into this thing, you know, and they got the Canadian manufacturing going. You know, we had what we could get.
Right.
It was just, and some it was pretty potent. Of course, then you were driving on the other side of the street, which was another little interesting thing. Of course, we had motorbikes.
Yeah.
Motorbikes, and then we finally had Jeeps, and we had 800 weight vehicles, 1500 weight vehicles, 300 weight vehicles.
Right.
And we finally wound up with some White Scout cars and some half-track White Scouts, and
you name it.
GM little scout cars, all kinds of funny things, you know.
Yeah.
Anything they could give us, it seemed like.
And you just worked on them, yeah.
Well, we had to. My job was to keep the stuff running if we could.
Yeah.
I didn't do it all because some of the driver Max did a lot of it, but they only were limited to what they were allowed to do.
Right. And so you guys all had your own tools you brought from Canada and everything too?
Tools we had in Canada, they said, you don't need to take those with you because when you get to England, you'll be equipped with a whole new set of tools. So I need to tell you that we got tools that never fit anything we had. It was all the British Whitworth and what have you. And their sizing is all together different to ours. It wasn't those days.
Oh, okay, I see. So it didn't fit your vehicles?
Nothing fit anything. It was a nightmare until we managed to get some tools to work with.
Right.
And that was another story.
So tell me, when you got to Italy then, that's when you began your real involvement in
the war.
We
we had equipment to work with by now.
Oh, I see. Right.
Oh yeah, I was in Italy. We got all this stuff from the Western Desert that I'm telling you about.
Right, right.
Italy. In order to get, before we could go, we had to renovate this stuff. And it was some job. 2 times.
Right, right. So were you directly involved in any of the campaigns then?
You mean as a soldier?
Well, you were a mechanic, but did you go with?
Oh, yes. I might have been a mile or half a mile or 2 miles or whatever sometimes I'd cut away this and sometimes I'd find myself right in an action.
No kidding, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
See, if a vehicle broke down, they'd give me a map reference. Sometimes the map reference wasn't correct, or I didn't read it or understand it properly, and I'd get there and I'd find an action going.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So you had to go pick up the vehicle.
Yeah, I remember once I got in there and I got into there and the real action going, and there was this was in Italy, and they had down there. They used to have wine. They used to have these big long silos that they used to put wine and stuff in.
Oh, yeah.
The Germans all cleaned it out time we got there, but anyway, I got in there this day and they were firing morning minis and everything else around, and I ducked into this place and I found a couple of Italian people and somebody else in there, so I just stayed in there till it stopped because there's nothing I could do. Did you have to carry a gun as well? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I started out, they gave me a nice Thompson submachine gun, which I liked, and then they decided that was too good for me, and they took that away from me, and they gave me a little Sten gun, which was just a piece of hardware.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, I had a Lee Enfield rifle for a while, and then I had picked up an Italian, 7mm or something that I was packing around. The reason for that was the Lee Enfield we got at peep sights. Peep sights were very difficult for me. The Italian rifles had open sights, and I handled them nicely because I'd been used to them.
Oh, okay.
And so I carried this Italian rifle, so I knew if I got in a pinch that I could hit what I was shooting at.
Right.
But with the peep sights, I had lots of difficulty with that. I couldn't find what I wanted because somewhere or other I couldn't manage the peep sight.
Right.
I don't know why, but I couldn't.
Huh. So you guys use different people's supplies and things like that all the time?
Well, we used our own mostly because it's the only one we had the ammunition would fit.
Oh, I see.
See, Italians would be captured equipment, eh?
Oh, I see.
And we may have had, maybe 15 rounds or 10 rounds or whatever to fit this thing. That would be all the 7mm or 7.5, whatever it was, millimeter ammunition that fit the thing.
So describe to me what your uniform was like and the supplies you would have carried.
Uniform? Well, I wore the same uniform as everybody else, but I had overalls I wore.
Oh, okay.
And they never used the same type of split and poly discipline on me that they would use for the rest of them, because how could you?
You're stuck in the engines and stuff. Well,
your clothes got dirty, and it didn't bother with me anyway. Even when the assault courses, they used to say, well, everybody out for assault course today. Yeah, so that includes you, Morgan. And so I'd put my equipment on, I'd get out there. And the major would say to me, we don't need you out here, we'll go back to work. I never did go over one of them assault courses, I remember. If I did, it was going to be partial. But he said, you don't need to be out here.
Right. Oh, that's kind of nice, eh?
But any long route marches or anything like that, it's always on those.
Yeah.
And then when I got married in England, when we were in Brighton, it was about 50 miles, I guess, from where the wife lived, and on weekends they'd give me a pass, and of course I drove this bicycle because I didn't have for transport. Of course, as far as they was concerned, I was getting excellent, because that put you in real condition, because they were a single-piece bike, and 50 miles up and 50 miles back, pretty good hike.
No kidding.
And I was always a pass ready for me. The orderly room clerk used to say to me, I got a pass for you. Do you want it?
Oh.
He just gives it to me. I don't even ask for the thing. He'd say, or he'd come and ask me, are you going out this weekend, or do you want to pass this weekend, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I worked all the time. You know, I was always working.
Yeah.
There was lots to do, and I did, not besides repairing equipment, I was given mechanics training, I was given driver's training, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that would have been in Italy as well? Were you doing the training?
Well, mostly England. Some in Italy, mostly England.
Right. So take me through an average day of your time in Italy or some of the other countries you might have been in.
Well...
Like, were you up at all hours of the night too? Or?
Oh, yes. And if we were on a convoy from one point to another, I'd had to make sure that the vehicles got there.
Right.
And if any broke down, I'd have to take care of them.
Right.
And I have known, I remember once in Italy, it was raining like mad, and you know, you couldn't have tops on because the windshield would glare, and you'd make a bombing target.
Oh.
I remember once I was, I don't know, I always had a Jeep to drive. And I remember this day I came into this harbor we was in, and I was so tired I just shut the engine off and went to sleep. It was raining and mad, wet, and I woke up and I was soaking wet.
No kidding, eh? What about mail service? Was it good?
Yeah, good, yeah. No problem with the mail.
And who did you get mail from?
Oh, I used to get mail from my family and my wife. And that's about it. That's all I got mail from. Nobody else to get mail from.
And while you were at war, what were your living conditions like? Like, what did you sleep in?
Well, you had a blanket and a ground sheet.
Yeah.
And that was about it. And there were pup tents, you know, but I don't remember. Oh, yes, we had little tents, that's right. And we used to stake them out and crawl in underneath. And,
oh, yeah.
Single tents.
That's neat. And then eating arrangements, would they have a mess or something? Or?
Well, yeah, you had sort of a mess, but normally, as was just a private soldier that fed you outside, and you had a couple of mess tins, spare mess tins and a cup.
Oh, yeah.
A knife, fork, and spoon, and the cups had handles on them, and you got soup or whatever it was in each one.
Yeah.
And if it was dessert coming, well, you'd go back and get it afterwards.
Oh, I see. And they just had stoves or whatever?
Well, what they used in the field was a gasoline cooker it had a ring on the front of it, right. And it blew out, and they aimed it at whatever they were cooking.
Oh, I see.
That worked fine as long as you could get white gas.
All right.
As soon as you started burning leaded gasoline, because it plugged up the rings.
Oh, and you would know this as a mechanic.
Yeah, you have to take them off and clean them out or whatever.
Right. But were you ever injured? No. Did you ever?
Nothing more than injuring my finger once, and then getting damn sore. I know that.
Did you participate in like any parts of the liberation of some of the countries?
Well, I guess you could say we did, because when we got there, we always had starving people, eh? We had people, you always had refugees to contend with and all that kind of stuff.
What was that like?
Well, to give you an idea, we used to have a chocolate ration, and I never ate any chocolates. I gave it all to the kids.
Yeah, eh?
What I could get out of the canteen, I bought and give them to kids.
Were they all over the place?
Oh, it's terrible.
And what were the civilians like?
Some of them were all right, but we classed them as enemy, you know, because they had capitulated, and we didn't know who was who, because some of them were in favor and some of them weren't. Right. So you didn't know who you were dealing with. And, There weren't people I liked.
Yeah.
Didn't like them at all.
So were you in any other country apart from Italy?
Well, we went from Italy, and they brought us up in 1945 in about February, and we went into action in Holland.
Oh, you did. Oh, so you took part in the liberation of Holland, then too?
The fellas had done the dirty work by the time we got there. We just had a ball when we got there, because our guys were highly trained, and we just went all over the place.
Right.
And if they had anything, they seemed to get out of it real quick.
Right.
Out of that whole action, we only had 131 men killed, and we spent lots and lots of time in the line. It seemed to me we were always in and out. As a motorized battalion, they'd move us across, put us in the line in a day or 2 days, pull us out, move us in, yeah.
Really,
out,
eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Across Italy, like that.
Oh. What were the Dutch civilians like?
Oh, they were fine, but by the time we got there, we were so happy to get out from the yoke of the Germans, and they wanted to celebrate. And I don't blame them.
Yeah.
But everything was smashed to pieces there.
It was, eh?
Oh, yeah. Smashed. Most things were smashed anyway.
Really, eh? Yeah.
And they were hungry, of course, and everything they owned. I don't think they owned much of anything. Most of them, everything seemed to me was smashed. All the houses were pretty badly damaged. So some of them were. Some of them hadn't been hit, but most of them were damaged.
What about social life while you were at war? Was there a social life?
Well, I wouldn't say so.
No?
I didn't class it. They used to have dances and things like that when we were in England, but when we got onto the continent and I don't know. I didn't get involved in if I had leave, I had learned that I was better off by myself.
Really? Why is that?
Because the guys used to be crazy, get themselves in trouble, and me too. So I went out and leave with a couple of them a couple of times, and didn't do any more.
Yeah.
Too risky.
Too risky.
Yeah.
And you were married then too, weren't you? By the time you went to
Well, I was in Italy when I went to Italy, and the last I was married in April, and we left in the latter part of October. It's that time of the year, it'd be like, it'd be just a little earlier. Yeah, it was early in November we were. And of course they go north and maybe go south, zigzagging, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And in days we see all kinds of difference in
weather and everything, eh?
and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, so those
and the convoy I was with, it got bombed off the coast of Italy there, and some of the nurses were in the convoy with us. I believe some of them got killed. I'm not sure. But the part that I was with, they took us over to North Africa and then brought us back to Italy. I don't know why they did that, but
it was warm, I'm sure.
And we went across to Italy on one of the mill trains they had there.
Oh yeah.
Was it 8 horses and 50 men or something in them? Anyway.
So when you went across the continent, that was in 43. Was that right?
Yeah. Last day. Well, we got into Italy. It would be in November.
Under 43, right. And then, did you ever go back to see your wife during that time?
When we came from Italy we went up to France and Belgium. We stopped off in Belgium, and they gave me a week's leave to go to England.
Oh, okay.
and then I came back, and when I got back, they come out in the trucks, and they got off, and the grass was being mowed along like this, and I said, "Hey, what's going on around here?" And the machine gun fire.
You're getting shot at. No kidding, eh? That must have been scary.
I found that interesting.
So tell me a bit about your commanding officers. What were they like?
Well, actually, we had good officers.
Yeah.
You know, because if we didn't have, we would have lost. We'd have had a lot more casualties than we had. But we had. I've got to say, we had good officers.
Yeah.
There was the odd idiot amongst them, but the most of them were good. The commanding officer was excellent.
And did you guys have relationships with them? Like a friendship or anything like that?
Well, not too much. The Canadian Army discipline was much the same as the British. A little easier, but it was... We did, some of the guys might have, but I didn't know any of these officers well enough to. Unless I was working with one of them, I minded my own business.
Right.
I didn't get involved.
So tell me, do you have any sort of memories or experiences that really stand out about your time in the war?
Yeah, you know that regimental book you brought with you? I got a copy of it, but there's a picture in there of having a bath in Italy. And that outfit they were using there, I built that thing.
Oh, did you?
And what had happened... during the bombing and so on, people had been using these cast iron heaters in their homes, like, you know. And I found one of them, and it wasn't doing anything, so I brought it back, and from the water truck on one side, and the other side out to a shower head I found somewhere, and I put one of these burners onto it, and they could heat enough water to have a shower. And that's what that picture is. I'm sure it is.
No kidding, eh?
I'm sure that's
no kidding. So did you do lots of sort of making little things?
Well, there was another time in Italy where the cook's burners we couldn't use them anymore because we couldn't get any white gasoline. They all plugged up. So one of the officers said to me, "Oh, you can burn diesel fuel." Yeah, but how do you burn diesel fuel? I never knew anything about burning diesel fuel except in an engine. So I said, "Oh yeah, you can burn diesel fuel in water." I said, "How?" No more. So anyway, I devised I used one tank for water, one tank for diesel fuel, and I used 2 pipes with a little tap on each one, brought it down, and I devised a set of plates, and then I had 2 chunks of railroad iron and some steel and what have you, and outside the cook's tent I had some old throwaway cans I made a chimney out of. And so in the experimental stage, I didn't know what was going to happen. So I lit this stuff, and when it's burning, you know, the oil is burning, and then when you turn the water on, the water hitting, you know, hot plates, It just sounded like eggs frying, bacon frying, a sizzling noise. And what was happening, when the water, I guess the water must have, when it was cracked and broken, burning with the oil, it must have produced hydrogen and oxygen. Because it would lay underneath these pots, and it was just a flame that seemed to lay there, and it was really hot and really cooked the stuff, and that's what we used for cooking there for a long time. And everything worked fine until I got jaundice, and the doctor ordered me away to get fixed up, and of course while I was away, I didn't know what to do with this thing. I didn't know what to do with it. So when I got back, somebody had found some gasoline and got new rings for the burners, and we was in that then. But
wow.
And if I don't know, but when these towers burned in the States there, I was reading today there was thousands of gallons of diesel fuel in there, and they didn't understand why even the steel beams in there melted. And I was thinking, the water mixing with this diesel fuel, and from the experience I'd had, it would be just like a blowtorch.
No kidding, eh?
Oh, yeah, they would really get hot, eh?
Wow.
But I watched that stuff, and I know how hot it can get. Mm-hmm. And being in there, amongst all this junk, and down there, I guess the fire department was using water, and hey, we're just creating a real inferno.
No kidding.
But they didn't seem to know that. I was reading an account of it today on New York Times. I get it on the computer.
Oh, okay. So you mentioned that you got jaundice. So did they send you to the hospital for that?
Oh yeah, we went to the field hospital. Yeah.
And what was hospital like?
Well, it was pretty good.
Nice to be around.
Get away from there. We had nice nurses, and
they treat you good.
Oh yeah, they were really good. The doctors were good and everything. I got a couple of months before I got over there.
Really, eh? Wow,
a pretty bad dose of it. Of course, they check you almost every day, and if they hear any sound of any murmur in your lungs or anything, they will let you go.
Really?
So I found out. I think it was sometime in October when I got this stuff. I don't really know when, and I never got back to the regiment. When you get out of hospital, they send you to a holding unit.
Oh, okay.
And then you're assigned anywhere from there. So one day I hadn't been in there a couple of days, and the officer of the day from the regiment came there, and he says, "Come with me," And I said, "Well, I better report out that." He said, "Do that." He said, "We'll look after that. Come back with us."
Oh, he wanted you back with the regiment. Well, that's good, eh? So
I got back there a few days before Christmas and went back into action. But they'd had a rough time. It was about 2 months that I was in hospital.
Oh, really, eh?
Oh, yeah. Reading the account of it in there. A rough time. But
yeah. Did you guys celebrate Christmas?
Yeah, we had a Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So tell me, what were your feelings on VE Day?
Well, VE Day, when I was in Holland, and I had one of the number 9 sets that we had, and I would listen to that.
On the radio?
That's all. I think I drank a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
That was about all there was to it, and we were staying in sort of a half part of a building that belonged to a Dutch couple there, a Dutch school teacher.
Oh yeah.
And they were all right.
Huh. And did you listen to celebrations on the radio then? Or?
Well, yeah, I could. I tuned it in to BBC and listened to London and
right,
like that.
Right.
Here I am. There a second here. We've done all the work, and we're not even getting into the celebrations.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? Yeah. So what about your journey home? Tell me when you found out you're going home and when you got home.
And this is a long story. This is where we separate from the army. Anyway, I'm in Holland, and the regiment wouldn't let me go because we had points for the amount of time it served and so on.
Right.
So anyway, my adjutant went on his holidays, and I got a Remy. A Remy, because I was Remy, and we got a Remy attached officer, and I said to him, "Sir, I'd like to get home," and I said, "I have so many points, which were plenty," and he said, "Okay, fine, boom, I'm gone." So then I get to England, and I wanted to get discharged in England because I wouldn't have got her over here anyway, and I didn't. By this time, I didn't care where I was because Canada wasn't so hot either before the war. Things were pretty tough here. We're like a third world country.
With the Depression,
Oh boy, was it ever! We were just starting to come out of it a little bit, but work wasn't plentiful and money wasn't plentiful. People today don't know anything about this.
No, not at all.
And if the mills would get a contract for lumber, and you'd work until that was used up, or you'd be cutting wood, or for various power generating systems, or the mines, cutting mine timbers and stuff like this, or get on the farm and milk cows, or what, who knows?
Right.
And that's the way it got along. And if you were working by the hour, you could get anything from 15 cents to 2 bits, and if you're lucky in one of the better outfits, you might get 35 or 40 cents, and that would be the tops.
Right.
Build the Petula Bridge, they were only paying 75 cents to $1.25 an hour on that thing.
So after you were in England then, and what happened?
Well, I worked over there for almost just around 2 years. I worked with her father for a while. He was a plumber.
Right.
And but you couldn't earn anything. You couldn't get any housing. There was no housing. And I was living with her parents, and they didn't have any room. And I got pretty frustrated because I couldn't move. I couldn't get anywhere. I couldn't get any housing, and there was just no opportunity to do anything because the system is different over there. Unless you belong to the aristocrats, you're pretty well out of luck. So then I got fed up with the whole thing, and I wrote to the member of parliament, who I had known when I went to school, because I went to school with his children, and he was the reeve of Surrey at the time, and then he was a member of parliament. So I wrote to him, and because I was having trouble getting back, he said, no. So anyway, I wrote to him, and boy, I had passes and everything within a week.
To get back here?
Oh, yeah.
With your wife?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
With the 2 boys. Oh, yeah. And then, of course, and then we managed to get some place to live. Uphill battle. Took a long time.
What sort of things were provided for you by the army or by the military when you were discharged?
Oh, they gave us, I'm going from memory now. I think we got, they gave us a month, what month's pay? Or 2 months pay. We got a discharge credits for, I think it was 25 cents a day England and 50 cents a day in action, or something like that. The days were in action.
Right.
And on top of our normal army pay.
Oh,
and I think I got about, what did I get? About $1,200, I guess. And then when I got back here to Canada, they gave me another, I don't know exactly how, maybe something like that. And then, of course, when I got married in England, wife got her mother's family allowance, which she didn't spend.
You just saved it.
She did, yeah, and I didn't know it. She said to me one day, she said, I've saved up £300. And they were worth, the value at the time was $4.47.
No kidding.
But by the time we got around to move that money, it was down to about $4. But so between what I got from the army and the re-establishment credits and what she had saved, that gives, we managed to do a little bit.
Were you able to buy a home and stuff?
Well, I bought an acre, 2 acres and a half under the Guildford, what is now under the Guildford estate,
Oh, okay.
We're about, here's the Johnson Road at 152nd and 104th. We were on 104th here, and I think we were about, maybe 500 feet or something like that, maybe a little further from the corner. But when they built the Guildford estate, they bought all this property. I didn't own it by then, because I had traded this for a piece of property in New Westminster. It had a service station and a repair shop on it.
Oh, I see. Right. Well, that's tough going, eh?
Oh, boy. You work day and night. And, you've made what you could earn, eh?
Yeah.
And, I think I was doing work for about maybe $1.50 an hour, repair work. That's about all that I got for it. Because you couldn't, if you didn't, you wouldn't get any, because the mill guys were getting, I don't know, around $1 an hour or something. That's all they were getting. I don't think we were getting any more. Because I know I hired some mechanics there at once, and I paid them $1 an hour to $1.50 an hour.
So you came home 2 years after the war was over.
Well, yeah, I got over here in the first days, early days of January 1948.
And what were the attitudes of the people towards the soldiers at that time?
Well, my own brother-in-laws, they figured that I had a party over there.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And I had rented a house on one of the streets just off the Fraser Highway and down by the Petula Bridge there, and I didn't like paying the amount of money she wanted for this shack, and she said, "Oh, what difference does it make you? You got your money for nothing anyway."
Okay.
And I said to her, I wouldn't do some of that over again for $1,000 a minute.
Yeah.
That was the attitude. They figured we had a party and over there. I didn't think that even my family figured that more or less just we picked out a party. I don't know where they get the information from, but that's the way I felt.
Do you think, in general, though, veterans have been treated well over the years by the Department of Veteran Affairs and other people?
Well, I have asked them for nothing, and I've got nothing.
Right.
I'm not very happy with the tax department. I don't think that they don't care. You look, a veteran today, it doesn't even matter. You're nobody. I just feel, even if because I went in the hospital there to have a knee replacement here 2.5 years ago, and I happened to comment to them, that I was a veteran, and they asked for some reason. It didn't make any difference. They didn't give a shit about me.
Really?
They didn't get nothing, no special treatment or nothing. Nothing.
Do you belong to any veterans organization?
Not anymore. I did for a while, and I was one of the officers of Branch 2 Canadian Legion for a while.
Right.
I didn't like the way they were doing things because they were just losing the thing.
Right.
And I said, well, if this is the way you're going to do it, then I'm not going to be here.
Right. Right.
So now when I moved out here and built this house and so on, I never bothered with it anymore. Right. I went into Legion here a couple of times and I couldn't hear myself think, and so I didn't bother anymore. I haven't bothered with it anymore.
No. Do you observe Remembrance Day?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, if it's handy, I will.
Yeah.
But I'm a non-religious person. And when I joined the army, I didn't join the army to go to church. And the first thing they do, they assign you a religion if you don't have one. And you're only one of three things. You're either a Catholic, or Church of England, or you're a Jew.
No kidding.
And if you didn't go to church, they'd give you a job cleaning shit houses or something. You know, I'm not, I shouldn't use those words like that. So rather than I go through harassment, we go to church.
Right.
But one thing I didn't like about church in the field was you're subject to enemy air attack, and they gather up maybe a battalion church parades. And boy, that used to scare the hell out of me. Because you never know if you're going to get strafed or bombed or anything. I didn't go for that one. Because I don't believe this stuff anyway. So.
Right.
During I grew up and I went to church, Sunday school, up until I was about 12 years old, I guess. And during the Depression years, there was nothing to do, so I read the Bible, one end to the other. And when I got through, I didn't believe in none of it. I don't know what your religious feelings are, but those are mine.
So, one last question then. Friendships or contacts, do you still maintain any?
Oh, yeah.
Did you?
I have one of the chaps I served with, mechanic, he and I, but he lived way up at up in the interior there.
Oh, yeah.
He's 3 years older than I am, which makes him 89. He's all right, but, as you get older, you lose contact with one another. If he's down this way, he calls in and sees me. But, and I don't go up, I don't drive much anymore. So.
Right.
I don't like the idiots on the road. I almost got killed a couple of times on the highway. So I didn't actually get hit, but it's just for some strange reason that I didn't go when I should have.
Right.
Boom! I've had several occasions of that.
Right.
I'm pretty careful. I don't particularly care for driving anymore.
Right.
But I used to drive anywhere, anytime, anywhere, with anything, no matter what it was.
Yeah. So, I think that's probably about the end of the interview, but do you have anything that you'd like to say, or something you feel I've missed, in terms of your experience?
Well, I don't know. I've supported the regiment quite a bit,
Yeah.
We have a future fund, and I provide them with the funds to get it started.
Oh, good. Good.
Jerry Gagner, or one of them, will confirm that.
Right.
I've given them a couple of good chunks of money. And so they have a good operating fund. I noticed by the last issue of the ground sheet, as we call it, that the president stated that they were in pretty good shape monetarily. So.
Oh, good. Good. And so you still belong to the regiment then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Get their newsletters and stuff?
Yeah. I'd like to get into more things. I've been having trouble getting to the Melfa dinner. I didn't go last year. I've been having trouble with my feet and legs and...
right.
Oh, I don't know. I went 2 years ago, and one of my sons drove me in. And then 5 years ago or something like that, I went to to the Dutch deal.
In Holland.
Not in Holland. I didn't go to Holland. I was offered a trip to go to Holland, but I have a lot of trouble with my legs, and if I said I'd go if my wife would go, and they said, no, you can't take her with you. And no, I said, well, even if I pay her way, oh.
No kidding.
No, it was strictly military.
Mm.
And I said, well, if she can't go, neither am I.
Mm. Mm.
I tell you, when your feet are bothering you, you don't get much fun out of them.
Right.
Out of walking there.
Right.
I've had a lot of trouble with my feet for several years now.
Right, right. Well, thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Okay, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
I don't know what value it is.
It's lots of value.
Value.